My name is Victoria Martocci. I'm with Malama Kai Foundation. I'm the Day Use Mooring Buoy Program Director. And let's see, what do we want to do first? Okay, I know what I want to do. I'm going to ask to engage your imagination for a moment. So what I want you to do is imagine or visualize a tour boat easing into a scenic bay. All right? The coral reef below is teeming with life. Coral reef that has taken centuries to form, layer by layer, polyp by polyp. Now I want you to visualize that same boat dropping anchor. I can hear you guys, right? Yeah, it's easy to imagine that a dropped anchor, even a carefully placed one, can drag unexpectedly, scarring the reef in seconds. Multiply that by dozens of boats a day, every day. And anchor damage, it isn't just fast, it's often permanent. Coral doesn't bounce back easily either. A single mistake can erase decades of growth as those broken fragments impact their neighbors. And this kind of harm is uniquely frustrating because unlike so many pressures on Hawaii's reefs, let's talk sedimentation, warming seas, ocean acidification, anchor damage is preventable. Now I'll ask you, in your mind's eye, what is your go-to solution to prevent anchor damage? Did your mental picture look something like this? No public access allowed. This was our solution. Too often, protection is framed as restriction, but the Day Use Mooring Buoy program turns that thinking on its head. These are permanent anchors that are public use, first come, first serve, infrastructure, where boats can tie up rather than drop anchor. Moorings don't limit reef access, they preserve it. By protecting the reef from damage, we protect the opportunity to keep visiting that reef sustainably. Now, this protection didn't begin with policy. Would you be surprised to learn, well, maybe not after that introduction, would you be surprised to learn that it began with the tour boat community itself? So in the early 1980s, that's 4 decades ago, a core group of tour operators saw a growing problem, potential anchor damage at popular reefs. They knew there had to be a better way, and they set about finding a solution, working with the state agencies and scientists to test mooring installations in 1987. So they recognized the problem in 83. I don't know if you guys can read that text down there so small. Tested in 87. And then when the permit process stalled, the operators continued to problem solve for a solution, offering their donated dive time, vessels, materials, as well as offering testimony to enable protection of the reefs. And I don't know if you guys can see or make out Jerry Garcia's profile in one of those pictures there, but he also lent his voice to this program. He was an avid diver. So without an official mechanism to fund the maintenance of the moorings, the tour operators created one, and they founded Malama Kai Foundation in 1991. It was a bridge between community initiative and long-term stewardship, which enabled the permitting and installation of 223 day-use mooring buoys statewide in 1995. Now, you may, with the current day terminology, this might sound familiar to have a hui of tour operators contributing into a program to protect the reef. Does that sound familiar at all to you guys? Because this is now what we call regenerative tourism. So where the boating community has been central to this model from the beginning. They didn't have to be regulated into compliance. They helped shape the standard. But how does this translate? Hawaii's Day Use Mooring program has prevented an estimated 90,000 anchor drops each year, which has resulted in 2.4 million anchor drops avoided statewide over the past 3 decades. I mean, honestly, that's prevention at scale, and reefs that are still intact today because of it. The Deus Mooring Buoy program is a unique combination of conservation and infrastructure. And to do that, it's more than the sum of its parts. It's a working model of collaborative field-based resource management, one where ocean users, nonprofit stewards, and state partners all have a role to play, to some significant conservation wins. Also, a case study in how long it can take to get here. For nearly 4 decades, Malamakai Foundation managed the mooring network on a shoestring, powered by volunteer teams, dive teams, donations, and, to be honest, just determination. It worked, but as the program matured, funding remained fragile, dependent on goodwill and limited donations. Some islands had more success than others, and volunteer funding alone was never going to meet the scale of the need. But the vision never wavered. Anchor damage is preventable, and moorings are the ounce of prevention. In 2024, we entered a new chapter. Malamakai Foundation was awarded a 2-year pilot contract from the Division of Aquatic Resources, funded through a federal grant administered by Hawaii Tourism Authority. That pilot focused on 46 mooring buoys across Maui Nui, and it's helped us prove the model, refine our systems, and rebuild local field teams. In the first year, we completed 92 inspections, 27% of which required maintenance, and responded to 9 user-reported emergent repair needs. Last month there was a tour operator who called in a report that their anchor was broken. And our field team, who knew the site well, they went out and replaced the hardware within 2 weeks. And I know 2 weeks might sound like a long time, but if you've ever done a construction project or tried to hire a contractor to get out to fix your thing, 2 weeks is sometimes rapid rates, okay? So it only happened because we finally had the structure and the funding to act. So this field-driven data has given us our clearest picture yet of what scalable mooring stewardship could look like when fully funded. 2025, that is becoming a reality through the Aloha Ikekai, which is Hawaii's ocean stewardship fee. And if you've been on any of the tour boats, that's $1 per head fee that the state is charging, and some of it goes back into the Deus Mooring Buoy program. And it was launched with a simple premise that ocean tourism revenue can help protect the ecosystem that it depends on. What makes this powerful is not just the funding. It's that the mechanism finally formalizes support for programs that communities, like Hawaii's boating community, have been trying to sustain for decades. For the Deus Mooring Buoy program, it marks a turning point. It means we're no longer relying solely on volunteers and duct tape. We're resourced, we're organized, and we're ready to grow. This summer, we've been contracted with the state for management of the program, funded by Aloha Ikekai, and formalizing that public-private partnership that has spanned decades informally. We'll begin implementing a centralized tracking system for 186 of the 223 moorings statewide. And we're doing it with increased transparency. We'll have an online tracking system and map available where users can go and see when the last time we serviced that mooring was, and the exact GPS coordinates, what the grade was like when we left that mooring behind. So we're transitioning from patchwork to pilot to permanence, to take a proven solution and scale it across Hawaii's most heavily visited reefs. And more than all of that, we have a renewed hope that we can protect more of Hawaii's reefs. Malamakai Foundation has just been awarded a federal grant to support the environmental assessment and permitting process necessary to expand the network of Deus Mooring Buoys beyond the 223, because I think you can probably safely assume there's more than 223 boats out there. We need more of them, and we haven't been able to keep pace. We're excited for this next chapter, which isn't about replacing community-led stewardship, it's about making it sustainable. Again, anchor damage is preventable, and every mooring that we install is an ounce of that prevention. protecting reef ecosystems that sustain our community, our economy, and future. The Deus Mooring Buoy program began as a grassroots act of stewardship. It's become a statewide infrastructure system. And now, by knitting together state funding, grant funding, private donations, and community support, we have the means to sustain it and to grow it in step with the very people and places it was built to serve. So thank you very much for that part. We also have a lovely surprise for you guys. And I just want to highlight our filmmaker, Ross Bronzan, who's in the audience. Yep. So we're premiering our newest, we received funding from Atherton Family Foundation to be able to produce a video to speak more about the mooring program and give you guys a little bit of a visual. So let's see if I can make this happen. We're so close, guys. Bear with me. All right, here we go.
Hawaii's coral reefs stand as a testament to the natural beauty and ecological importance of these underwater rainforests. These reefs are not just beautiful, but also the foundation of a complex and fragile ecosystem. They face many threats, and one of the most preventable is damage from boat anchors. To counter these threats, the Wamakai Foundation implemented Hawaii's famed day-use mooring buoy system to offer a sustainable way for boaters to enjoy the ocean without the need for anchoring.
The Days Mooring Buoy program here was started because there are so many people that shared a common dream, a common purpose. And that common purpose was to reduce anchor damage to coral reefs from people who love to be out there diving on those reefs.
It is not only a conservation initiative, but it's also a public use boating infrastructure. So it's this really unique mix of both public-private partnership and just people caring about the place that they visit.
Days mooring buoys are a great way to keep anchors off of the reef and protect the reef from anchor damage. A lot of the coral reef conservation that's happening in Hawaii is focused on reef restoration, so restoring already damaged areas. But having days mooring buoys keeps our reefs protected from that damage happening in the first place.
The story of the Days Mooring Buoy system is one of foresight and dedication. The need for protection from anchor damage was recognized as early as 1985, and in 1987, proof of concept testing began on Oahu and Kona.
One of the first things we discovered is that the substrate here in Hawaii was a lot different than it was in Florida, so a different technique had to be developed, and that's where Jeff and Terry Leisher, and Father George Wilkins especially, got to work and experimented to try and find ways to anchor pins that would hold mooring.
People would just drive up to the dive site in the boats and just throw their anchor over and not even pay attention to what was on the bottom. We asked him, what do you think that we could do to try to prevent anchor damage? And he came up with a solution after research.
By 1988, pilot mooring buoys were installed at Molokini, demonstrating their effectiveness. This led to lobbying efforts, including testimony at the Board of Land and Natural Resources in 1990, and the establishment of the Wamakai Foundation.
A client who was rather famous, Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead, he wanted to do whatever he could to help us. He actually donated the first money that we received in order to buy buoys and hardware. But he also went to the public hearing to help convince the powers that be to give us the permit.
The program continued to grow with the adoption of the Days Mooring Buoy program into the Hawaii Administrative Rules in 1995. Additional permits were granted in 2005 and in 2010, expanding the system to Maui, Oahu, and Kauai.
it took a lot of time and experimenting, and then from there, you know, we were able to get permits and eventually go statewide.
Using a day use mooring buoy is simple, but it's crucial to do it correctly to ensure both the reef's protection and the longevity of the infrastructure.
So the state has put a few rules in place just to make sure smooth operation of the program, but we try to ensure that these are well maintained to minimize any issues caused by moorings.
Always start by visually assessing the buoy before use. Remember, use at your own risk. It's essential to use your vessel's lines to tie up to the buoy's tagline. And just like anchoring, use plenty of scope. Only one vessel can be moored on any buoy at a time. Limit your use to 2.5 hours. Do not moor overnight. And no anchoring within 100 yards of a mooring buoy. It's equally important to know when not to use a mooring buoy.
When it comes to when not to use the mooring buoy, this really relates to boater common sense. So if it's foul weather, that's not the time to be tying up there. If you would worry about being an anchor at that location during those surface conditions, then that's not the time to use the day's mooring buoy either. You also need to be looking at what you're tying up to and being sure that it is not only robust enough for your vessel, but also that the shallows aren't too close for your vessel. So it's really about each boater taking responsibility to make sure that that mooring is correct for them to use that day.
Finding day-use mooring buoys is easy. Online resources at MolamaKaiFoundation.org and the DLNR website provide GPS locations to help you plan your trip and locate your desired mooring.
The mooring buoy program has been an important building block, important infrastructure for an industry that really depends on the coral reefs. And it had that meaningful direct connection.
This goes beyond simply infrastructure. This is a conservation program. The Day-Use Mooring Buoy Network is estimated to have protected some of Hawaii's most visited reefs from nearly 90,000 anchor drops annually. That's conservation at scale, and that's something we hope to do a lot more of.
So there are a variety of ways that people can help the Day-Use Mooring Buoy program or support us. And one of the ways is to use your voice, to be able to lend your voice to support the public-private partnership between state agencies and this organization to be able to do this good work.
But it doesn't happen by magic. It takes a village, and you know, whether it's the people in the village saying, "Hey, this mooring, you know, looks like it needs some maintenance. This is where it is, and we will fix it with our teams." Check the mooring report if anything is wrong. Scrub it while you're there, and please send a tax-deductible donation to Malamakai Foundation for the Day-Use Mooring Program.
So we encourage all the boaters and people to use them and be aware of them, and hopefully spread the word about how important it is not to drop anchors.
The future of Hawaii's reefs depend on all of us. Continued reef protection relies on community support. By donating to the Malamakai Foundation, reporting any mooring buoy issues, and using buoys safely and respectfully, you can help preserve Hawaii's reefs for generations to come. More smart and help us to protect paradise.